speaking of people we've offended in the past in some way, and let me just make it really clear. I don't think that Peter Novak is a bad person. I do not think Hans Baca is a bad person. I just think they don't know how to handle conflict, and they don't know how to deal with the press. And that's all I'm saying there. I'm just saying they did a really job of that. And that's something they need to fix because it makes them look like a dick. Now, speaking of somebody that made themselves look like a dick in the past, and may not, in fact, be a dick, would be Bobby Convey. And that's another guy, funny enough, who's on the MLS soccer website and on the right bar, and you can click and watch Bobby Convey in a tub with lots of foam discussing why he doesn't like or use Twitter and how you can contact other members of the team using Twitter, but it won't be him because he doesn't use it and he's not interested in it. It really made Bobby Convey actually look like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, we sort of gave him the short end of the stick there on that when he some of the comments he made when he transferred to Sporting, but I thought that was very well done. Almost making fun of himself to an extent.
Yeah.
And I thought that's, in all honesty, that's the best way to shut critics up is to make fun of yourself.
Right.
It really is. And I thought he was very humorous. And even his little stick at the end where he's like, "This is stupid. This is so stupid." And it's just him. It's like cuts of him from different parts of the scene where he said, "This is so stupid." And it's just like he knows it's stupid.
Right. But he's going to do it anyhow.
He's got a sense of humor about it.
And it's good to see that side of Bobby Convey because, listen, it wasn't just that incident we talked about before. There were other reports we've gotten from not only former players, but people ball boys even, who have told us things that aren't very nice about Bobby Convey. And listen, he's not an extrovert. He's an introvert. So that's why, this is probably really tough for him. But it's awesome to see him kind of come out of the box, be somebody, try something that makes him uncomfortable, which is why he said it was stupid 30,000 times. But it would really help his Mr. Grouchy Pants image. And I think if he is Mr. Grouchy Pants, which it seems like he is, and he's embracing it, that really changes how people see you. Because then at least Bobby Convey acknowledges, I am an introvert. I do not like being on social networks. I do not like interacting. And you know what? I'm embracing that, and I'm showing you that side of me. And I'm as you said, I'm being self-effacing. I'm joking around about it, and it shows that at least he has a sense of humor about that stuff. All right. So then it brings us to there's this whole kind of group of United States national team fans, and we talked about this, and we have a little group of friends we often talk to about these things, and this group of American fans, I'm going to call them the Cap Him Nowers. I mean, anytime any player who has multiple options to play for one national team or the other, and one of those being for the United States, does anything even decent or has a good game, these Cap 'em Nowers come out of nowhere in hordes, and they say things like, "You got to cap this guy now." And a good example of that was Yura Mavisian, who, is now, of course, playing for the Armenian national team. There are some sour grapes from some American fans who say, hey, Bob Bradley screwed this up. Bob Bradley should have been on the phone with this guy saying, as soon as you get your citizenship, we're hot for you. We're interested in you. We want to take you out on a date. And I'm not for that particular strategy. I don't think, Brett, we need to be chasing every single player that shows some sort of mild flash of potential. And I don't think we need to run them all down and cap them immediately. And whenever we have done that in the past, when Bob did do it with the Copa 2007 squad, which made up a bunch of C squad, that was a horrible team that we sent to the Copa 2007. So,
an inexperienced team. They weren't horrible.
All right. They were inexperienced, but, people are criticizing Bob for not capping Movisian when Bob capped more than, he capped everybody and their mom while he was there. So you can't criticize the guy for that. Just because he missed one player that you think has that kind of potential. I just think people are getting way out of control with this whole issue.
Yeah, and and I had my argument about the whole Euro Movisian player, whether or not Bob was the fault to call up. And to be frank, I've said my piece on it. He wasn't a citizen. There's no reason we should have really been pursuing it until you got a citizenship.
Exactly.
Although the whole argument really stemmed from that we should have contacted him, and the main point was that apparently Bob and the USSF did not contact him at all, and that's why he ended up going to Armenia. However, and then with Bob with Copa, I mean, you look at the squad. He called in at the time very much a C squad, but his hands were tied. He couldn't call in, our top players. One, the teams didn't have to release them. Two, we just had the Gold Cup, so teams were most likely not going to release him. And if you really look at the squad, while they did do rather poorly in the tournament, about 11 players on that squad became either regulars towards the end of the cycle or even made the World Cup roster squad. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad squad by any means, just rather inexperienced internationally and as a team. Mm-hmm. But the big person here that really comes to mind as far as the Captain Nowers is when we talked about it earlier, but Ryan Mira.
Yeah.
Here's a player who born in the U.S. to U.S. parents as well, who have Irish grandparents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People are saying like, oh, why didn't the U.S. get to him first? Why didn't he's an American? Why didn't we call him up or whatever? And the thing is, if you look at his history, there's nothing to really call up.
Yeah.
He's having one hell of a season with the Red Bulls right now.
However,
prior to that, he was playing college.
Yep.
Playing for PDL teams. There was nothing out of the ordinary to really say, hey, we need to get on the phone with this guy.
Right.
As of now, it's all hindsight, obviously. And the Irish, the Republic of Ireland manager came out and said, hey, we've been following him for about a couple months now. See, now they've only really been following him
since this season.
Since he got signed by the Red Bulls.
Exactly.
And he's had a hell of a season. They're giving him a call up at the U21 level. And if you really look at it, there hadn't been that many opportunities for our youth squad to really give him a call up. Like I said, he was college bound half a year ago. He just got drafted, so the U23s are really out of the question.
Yep.
Not to mention on top of that, he would have had to fight with 3 seasoned pros for that squad.
Yep.
The U20s could have been an option the last cycle through.
Yeah. Exactly.
But still, again, he was just a college goalkeeper.
But even if he goes and he plays for the Irish U21s, he's still allowed the one-time switch. So
provisionally cap-tied due to the fact that it's a qualifier. However, he could switch at any time. He has that one-time switch ability.
Exactly.
Since he is a U.S. citizen.
We just need not panic so quickly about all these players. And in a lot of these guys, we'll go down this long laundry list of these multinational players that play in the MLS. And I listen, I love the MLS. I think we got a lot of great players there, but a lot of the players they bring up are just getting started. They're just young kids still. And Joseph Guy, I think, is the name that or Gal, whatever you want to pronounce it. It's just that name seems to come up a lot. And we don't know yet. There's no reason to jump the gun quite yet, right?
Well, U.S. fans by nature are very irrational as far as, we got to get him capped now. We got to cap him now because he could go and play for so-and-so. Joseph was the same way. He was doing well over at Hoffenheim, and they're like, hey, we need to get him on the squad now because otherwise he can go play for Ghana. Mm-hmm. People were saying the same thing about Adu years ago.
Yep.
I remember some of the names that were brought up in our discussion with Ura. I believe Mwanga was brought up and Nagby.
Yeah.
Those are 2 players who are currently, not U.S. citizens that people, obviously a lot of people are saying, we need to be in contact with them, say, hey, they're getting interest elsewhere. We need to say, hey, we're interested in having your services. But here's the thing. It's nice to say, if when you get your citizenship, if you're performing well, we'll give you a call.
Right.
But that's the thing. That's where we got to leave you. You can't go in there and say, "Oh yeah, we want your service. We're really interested in having you on the squad," because, when they get their citizenship, you have no idea how they're going to play.
Right.
If you look at Mo Sissien, I mean, what did he do at Real Salt Lake that really would have warranted a call up at any point if he was a U.S. citizen at the time? Which
he was a
not.
fine player. He didn't rock my socks off or anything.
And that's the thing. I mean, people bring up Nagby and they look at his potential. The thing is that, I mean, he's had he's had some quality performances, some quality goals, especially, and he's young. He's not quite seasoned as a pro yet,
right?
And you have no idea what he's going to be. You know, if you look at a handful of games as far as your pool to say, hey, okay, you know what, I think we should call him up. But the thing is that he's not a citizen, and he doesn't have that much experience at this point. Yeah,
and you know what? I'm going to get in more trouble for saying this, but let's be really honest for a second. Danny Mwanga and Nagme both play in the MLS, and when they excel to the point where they are looked at as really high potential players, or they broke through that and they're now no longer potential great players, they are great players. Well, then they're going to go and play for better teams. The very top crop players in the MLS, they're very few, who are going to stay in MLS and still make the United States national team. I'm telling you right now, you're looking at 3 to 4, at best, domestic players that make the U.S. national team. You want to be a U.S. national team player in the future, just look at how it's been going over the last couple decades. Fewer and fewer and fewer domestic players who make the U.S. national team. The majority of the players that play on this team, like it or not, play in Europe, and they're playing all over Europe in all kinds of different leagues, and they're playing well there. That's how you really make the U.S. national team. That's when you are going to get a call up. And like I said, right or wrong, I'm not saying I'm not going to have I'm not going to say that's how it has to happen. For me personally, I'm just saying that is how it is happening. So if Mwanga begins to show that kind of skill, that kind of ability, then eventually, like Dempsey, he's going to be. And of course, Dempsey was capped while he was still in the MLS, but that things are changing. Things are continuing to evolve. There are going to be fewer and fewer domestic players, playing on the U.S. national team. So there's no need to jump the gun on Mwanga. He has not shown us enough yet. There is no need to jump the gun on Nagbe. He has not shown us enough yet. I just think that, but we hear it all the time, Brett. We just do.
Oh, no, I agree exactly with what you're saying. The big thing to look at as well is, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Mwanga was, there was talks that Mwanga was going to have a citizenship before the Olympics, whether or not he was going to be able to, he wasn't going to make the qualifying squad, but if he gets his citizenship, maybe he can make the Olympic squad, which would have been great to do.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been great. That would have been the best opportunity for him to jump on to the international game. Then people are talking about, oh yeah, Nagby's he says he's only about a year, maybe 2 from getting citizenship.
Mm.
But you know what? The thing to talk about here is that fans and players alike really seem to underestimate the citizenship process, and they assume that you'll get it you'll get it immediately. You'll get it after this amount of time.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when players are like, oh, I'm only a year away from getting it, they're usually longer.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I know when they were talking about when we were talking about Mo Sissien, he had just gotten his green card when he left MLS.
Right.
And
it wasn't until he married his girlfriend, right?
There was many articles, and he was saying that he's had his green card for a couple months now. He has at least a couple years before he can even apply for citizenship. And in all honesty, I was kind of surprised that he was even able to continue the process abroad until he married his U.S. wife.